Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Inside Fitness Radio presents Total Fitness Podcast. My name is Matthew,
I'm Walter.
and today we have a good discussion about the biggest bodybuilding show of the year, biggest fitness expo of the year, the Mr. Olympia. It's coming up in about 4 weeks, and we're going to discuss a couple of the competitors and just talk about this competition because a lot more of these competitors are putting out body updates, physique updates. And it's kind of sparked a interesting conversation that Walter and I were having. And again, also debates on other YouTube channels, other TikToks, other Instagram people. So the debate is basically because of this man here. And everybody knows him. It's Chris Bumstead. Wow, he's up to 11.3 million followers. That is nuts. Good for him. So he posted this physique update today. Yeah, it's just crazy. He's a classic physique competitor, and this is what he looks like. Like, to me, this is unbelievable. Like, he's left classic physique. He's moving on to open bodybuilding now.
What is classic physique at this point? The definition seems to be changing, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because classic physique was a reaction to the size of the big bodybuilding guys.
Yeah. It was wanting to get more into the old days of the 80s of Arnold, of Frank Zane, Franco Columbo, right? But again, you compare this, and I'm not like, he is just crazy physique.
Absolutely.
But I love this.
I don't want to put down his work. He looks amazing. I just don't know what category that is anymore.
Yeah, because then you look at Rafael Brando, and this is an open bodybuilder. And he is placed very high as an open bodybuilder. To me, the size difference is not that much.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at this side chest post here. And again, you go back to Chris Bumstead here. That's crazy. And I get it. I know that classic physique has weight cutoffs for height. I competed in classic physique, so my category, I think I was allowed to be up to 205 or 210 pounds. They push the weight limit almost every year, right? Which is obviously becoming more of an issue because at some point you're just going to be an open bodybuilder again. But the fact that this is a high placing open bodybuilder, no weight cap, anything like that. And then you have Chris Bumstead, who, again, I think he's 6'2", 6'3". He is taller than Raphael by about 3 or 4 inches. But realistically, the amount of weight these guys have on them right now, like the amount of muscle that Chris has on him, is getting out of what I believe to be the definition of classic physique.
The look is quite different from what classic physique is. I mean, we're not in a Greco-Roman concept anymore. It's great. Everybody is a Marvel superhero, but that's not what classic was supposed to be about.
No, and this is what kind of gets me. Like, this is an older video, obviously, but classic physique was supposed to be about the lines, the symmetry, I hate to say it, but the appealing physique to the eye compared to, the mass monster of Ian Valère, for example.
Well,
you look at Ian.
Yeah.
And Ian is just a freak of how much muscle this guy has on him, right? Obviously, absolutely, there's a clear difference there. But it's just, I don't know, man. There's something, this happened with men's physique as well. And that's why, they created class physique, because men's physique just started to become way too big too.
And even the board short guys don't look the way they used to look.
No.
They're all much more massive than they ever were before.
Who's I'm trying to think of who's an actual competitor right now for men's physique. I was going to say Logan Franklin, but he switched over to classic.
Mm-hmm.
But
because he got too big.
Because he got too big. That's it. You start building the legs out, and there you go. And that's the funny thing is, like, men's physique doesn't have any weight cap. Like, here's some men's physique. When men's physique first started, it was about,
they were surfer dudes.
The beach body surfer dude looks good on, looks good without a shirt on, right? If I can pull up here, I always think of Steve Cook when I think of men's physique. Like this was Steve Cook back in the day. Not crazy back, not crazy
No, I mean the
definite, like
definition is still there. It looks good,
still
but the
massive.
size
Yeah.
differential isn't
Yeah.
there, right?
Yeah. And that's it. And Steve Cook has kind of always done that throughout his career, right? Like he's always maintained a very good, solid flow to his physique. It never was too big. It was never, out of the world kind of like you would look at him and you're like, that's very achievable. Right? Like with a lot of hard work. And again, that's the main thing is like a lot of hard work that is achievable. But again, you're comparing one of the top Mr. Olympia physique competitors, which was, geez, when was this? Back 10 maybe years ago, 10 plus years ago. And then you're looking at where your third place last year was. This was a year ago. And it's like, well, he's made improvements. He's put on weight. He's not just looking like this now. Like it's nuts. It's just crazy to me. Like that shouldn't be the definition of what men's physique was.
No.
So I don't know. It's crazy to me. That's the discussion today, at least. So,
well, what do you think is driving it? That's what my curiosity is. Because the size monsters are where they are because everybody keeps wanting to get more and more. How does that then translate down to? Obviously, if you chose classic, you were doing it for aesthetic reasons. But now that aesthetic is changing. Does that mean that that physique will become the new classic physique?
It's weird. Like I kind of get it, and this is my issue with competitions and even like gymnastics and stuff like this. It's like a perfect 10 back in the 80s is nowhere close to a perfect 10 in 2022. A bodybuilder placing first at Mr. Olympia in 2022 is nowhere close to what they were the year before. And I think that's the idea is like, as the number one guy, there's other guys coming up. So you have to push the envelope. And because you're already the number one guy, you're the guy people are looking to be like, well, that's what I need to beat. But so does he. So Chris Bumstead being the classic physique winner, he has to beat his previous self because he knows everybody else is trying to beat his previous self. So that does mean more lean, more size, more definition, more dryness, more symmetry, more whatever. He was always criticized for his biceps for a while. It's like, okay, bigger arms, more shoulders, more rear delt, more hamstring, more cut through the glutes, more whatever. And that's always how it goes. And like for open class, that's always how it's been. It's been the open bodybuilder has always been the mass monster. But for men's physique and like classic physique, to me, it should be at least about symmetry, proportion, aesthetic, posing, like everything needs to be accounted for. Instead of just mass and definition. Because it's gotten to that point.
I mean, don't get me wrong. In the old days, there was the fact that the guys were bigger, but nobody wanted to look like a freak show.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to be other than human looking. Now, I can appreciate the big bodybuilders. I can appreciate each one of those levels. But I think in terms of marketability, the definitions need to be stronger so that people know that, yeah, this is the achievable one. This is the harder one to achieve. And this one is the crazy one. And I mean, yeah, look at Zane back in the day.
But this is it, right? Like this is where you had the bigger, more muscular cut dude versus the smaller, just aesthetic as hell guy. Look at his legs, look at his arms, look at his chest compared
but
to
that's classic. Look at the pose.
Right? And to me, this is what was, and again, that was the reason people looked to Frank Zane and were like, this is classic. They looked to Franco and they're like, this is classic. Right. And now you look at Chris Bumstead, and I'm not knocking Chris. Like, he was my goal
No, no,
physique for the
no.
longest time. But the legs compared
Yeah.
to Frank Zane is just otherworldly. Like, it's just mass, pure mass. And again, he's a taller dude, so he's allowed to have a higher weight cutoff. But again, every year it seems like they are pushing the amount of weight that your height can actually reach. When I first started in classic physique, when it first became a thing, I think I was only allowed to be like, what was it, 190? Then it was like 200, then 205, 210. I'm sure it's probably going to be pushed to like 215 at some point. And it's like, I'm only 5'11", right? It's going to get to the point where, you have these guys who are his size, and that's amateur. It's not even pro. When you're at the pro level, you get an extra 10 or 20 pounds or something like that. I can't remember exactly. So now Chris Bumstead at 6 whatever can be 230, 232 pounds or something crazy like that. Like, that is nuts. That's just insane to me.
I just don't, I don't know how it's, the problem is I don't know where it would end. If, as you say, the weight classes go up every couple of years, when will they stop going up? When will we reach the point where it's like, okay, this is it. Let's work on size. Let's work on artistry. And like another thing with classic physique, I think there's a lot more artistry in terms of posing.
Yeah.
And how do you pose that?
Terrence Ruffian does it really well. But again, he's only like 5'8", so his weight cutoff is definitely a lot lower,
Yeah.
but or 5'9", whatever he is. Again, the issue just comes, money is in the mass. Mass monsters sell more. Chris Bumstead has gotten to the point now where he's 11.3 million followers. Like, everybody knows his name in the industry. Everybody wants to beat him, or everybody wants to be him. He has to be better every single year. And how is that going to, like, how do you be better in bodybuilding? You put on more muscle and you get leaner. That's the basics of bodybuilding, is get big and get lean.
Yeah, get big and get lean, I know,
But that's it. Like, how interesting would it
when do
be?
you reach the point where it is no longer symmetry based as well? Because you can
I
put
don't
on more muscle, you can put on more muscle, stay lean, but are you now still symmetrical?
I don't think it
Do you
will ever
still have
be
a
a
nice flow
problem.
to the muscles?
I don't think it will be a problem with the high level Olympia guys. I have seen it at low level amateur shows though, or even actually like national shows, like qualifiers. I've seen some physiques that just didn't flow well.
No,
And it's
that some guys
no,
can't walk.
right? Like, it's nothing against them. It's just their
Mm.
genetics are not, and that's a huge factor. Classic physique is your genetics. And their genetics are just not meant for that spot, but they're winning these shows. It's like, well, why are they winning? It was the same reason why, like, I lost, I placed third in my last show because I wasn't as big, or actually I was as lean as the other guys, but I wasn't as big in certain aspects. Like, I was I could argue that I was very symmetrical. I was probably more symmetrical in certain poses. Like, I could pose well, so I hid my
Yeah.
flaws very well. So I had smaller arms, and I was able to kind of hide that well. But it's like, I've gotten judges' feedback from my last show, and it was literally like, hey, you need more size everywhere. I'm like, I totally understand that, because I am about 10 pounds away from my weight cap. But he was making it seem like, yeah, you need way more size, because we want to look at Chris Bumstead when we were up there. I'm like, how am I
That's it.
supposed to do that at 5'11" when he's 6'3"? And the weight cutoff for 5'11", I think at that time was 197, 195, whatever it was. I was like, that's, how am I going to do that? Am I just not going to win then?
Maybe not. maybe that's one of the reasons why we're having this discussion, because I don't think that visually height matters. Yes, you're going to look more impressive if you're taller, but can you not have this as good development without being taller? Must you have that many pounds? Must you, at your height, carry 235 pounds to try and get the same kind of size and everything that he is? That's impossible.
I
So
look,
you need to be judged according to how symmetric you are,
yeah.
the fullness of the muscle, yes, the size of the muscle in conjunction with the height of the body.
Hmm.
To just keep getting wider and wider and wider shouldn't be part of the criteria. And
No.
yet, what is muscle mass? It's wider.
Yeah, and again, classic physique seems to be okay for the most part right now. I was just shocked when I saw that picture of Chris today because I was like, man, you're bigger than open class bodybuilders.
Yeah.
And I get it, you're top of the sport, so you probably will be bigger than 99% of the open class bodybuilders that are, a bit lower level than
Yeah.
Big Ramy, but men's physique is just one of those other things that is just, it's crazy to me that we've gone from men's physique, which was supposed to be board shorts, looking good, surfer bod, what it was at first, to now being like, these guys are bigger than the class physique guys at some points.
Yeah.
They have tinier waists and just wide as hell shoulders, but they're massive. Like there's this one guy I follow, and I'm not going to name him, but he's a Barrie based, I think Barrie or somewhere in northern Ontario or north of Toronto, sorry, that he's probably going pro very soon.
Mhm.
But since I've started following him like 2, 3 years ago, the amount of size he put on for men's physique is ungodly. Like it's ridiculous. And he doesn't look like a men's physique competitor in his upper body anymore. I'm like, what am I staring at here? Like, you should be, those poses, they honestly, it doesn't hit well. Like when you have arms the size, like 22-inch arms, 21-inch arms, it doesn't really hit well when you're trying to hit a men's physique side pose,
No,
in my opinion.
it's not designed to look good with that size. You have to move up the category to fit what your body is.
Yeah, and that's it. I'm like, if you want to keep gaining size, then stop competing for a little bit of time and go into the bigger open class when you're ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
Same, like if you want to be a classic physique guy and you just like, I know some guys that just do classic physique in between so they can move to the open class. And it's the same, man. Like Sean Clarita, 212 Mr. Olympia, he's moving to the open class now. He has competed, he's won an open class show.
Mm.
And he's just trying to get bigger and bigger and bigger. It's just like, at what point it's too big, and then obviously health issues and all that stuff. But the last thing we'll go
Well,
over,
let's not talk about that.
yeah, the last thing we'll go over is even the women, right? You look at Lori or Laura Lee, and it's just year after year, even the women competitor or the female bikini competitors
Mm-hmm.
um, is just nuts. Even you're looking at wellness division models, it's just bigger, bigger,
Mm-hmm.
bigger, more size. You have to get leaner this year. You have to actually, I can't remember her name, John Jewett's wife, Renee Jewett, I believe her name is, or Renee something. She does not look like this anymore. She looks absolutely insane right now. Like how lean she has gotten for the wellness division is
That's
just,
wellness.
but what is that? What does that mean? Wellness was bigger legs. Wellness was, it was more lean than the bikini, but it was bigger legs, slightly more upper body, but not much. And now it's like some of these women are just unbelievable.
So, do you see a return to women's bodybuilding open the way that was removed?
Honestly, maybe.
If everything keeps moving up for them as well, eventually they will reach that point where they
Yeah,
will be the category that was found to be too unfeminine to keep around.
that was it, right? And it's like, at what point, does it get too much? Like, it's crazy to me. Like, here we go. I found her Instagram, so let me pull it up really quick. So Renee Jewett, like she's off season right now, so not as lean.
Mm.
But if we can see a shot of her on season
That
on
looks
stage
amazing there.
recently, look at the ab veins,
Yeah.
look at the veins through the legs. This is nuts. Right. And that's what she started off with as bikini. And this is where she's at with wellness. And it's like
Yeah.
every year it's bigger quads, bigger butt, more lean, more vascularity, which also comes with the unfortunate, which again, I'm not saying that she is, but let's be realistic here, more drugs,
Mm.
right? Look, it's just, it's unreal to me, right? It's just unreal. And then you get the men, and this is where the real issue comes in with the men. You look at John, like, look at that leg. That's just nuts.
Yeah.
But we say, why is Chris not at the same level as Mr. Olympia on stage? And really all it comes down to is more food, a couple of years of training, but realistically, it is just one key thing that is stopping them from going to the open class. And I'm not going to say what it is. I think we all are very aware. If you have competed before or you're in the fitness industry, there is one specific compounds that you need to take to really gain that size, or two that you need to really gain that size. But hey, I knew classic physique
I'm
guys
just gonna
and
have a
men's.
sip of my cocktail while we're talking about this.
There was two there. I knew men's physique and I knew a class physique guy. When I was chatting with him backstage one time, I was told that they were using this stuff, which to me is so unnecessary. And I was just like, if you're using it at this level, that's one thing. If you're going up to the pro level, that's another thing. And then to get to the like Mr. Olympia Mass Monster, we all know what they're doing to get to that size. And it's like, okay, so Chris, when you stop growing and you have to be bigger next year, is that in the cards? Like, what's going on? Or maybe it already is. I highly doubt it, but maybe it already is. So it does get to a point where it's like unfathomable what you have to do to gain that size and why you're doing it, because it's defeating the purpose of that division. And my understanding is if you're in that division, it's because you enjoy that aesthetic and you're
That's
kind of.
it. I thought that was what it was, but now with the switch, probably just the glory. You want to get up there. You want to win the top,
By
right?
any means. And again, I'm not saying that they look like this now, because all the guys in the Olympia right now that I've seen updates of, class physique wise, they pose incredibly. They look incredible. They are very symmetrical. They are very lean. They're very big. But I'm just
Hell of a lot
saying
of work.
the way that we've seen it progress over the past few years is just, it's bigger, it's leaner. And it's like, okay, some of these guys, I hate to say it and call out names, but Breon was one of those guys. He was the class physique guy, and then he started losing it, and he was like trying to get leaner and bigger, and he started losing some of that. In my opinion, he started losing some of the symmetry. He started losing some of the, parts that made class physique. And yeah, he lost to Chris, but was it because of that, or was it because Chris just was better and looked more symmetrical, or maybe he was bigger, or maybe whatever it was? But yeah, the trend just seems to be going the same way that bodybuilding has for years, or men's physique has gone for years. It's
Yeah.
more.
No, the look is so completely different from when I first started following the sport. Across the board, it's all mass, more mass, and I don't want to denigrate the work involved, the training for posing, because some of them are awesome. But I do wonder how far this can go. It's like the economy. You can't have total growth all the time.
You're gonna come crashing down at some point.
That's right.
It's just when is that point? So,
Or it's got to be, what is the term for the stock market? Readjusted?
what the
Not
recession,
readjusted.
readjustments. That's a
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, the market adjusts itself.
yeah.
And maybe the sport needs to do that soon too.
But this is what's funny though, was classic was the readjustment to that.
Well, that's it.
Wellness was the readjustment to bikini competitors getting too big, and then wellness is turning into like, you sure you
Women's
shouldn't? And
bodybuilding.
obviously there is a huge difference, and I do appreciate the difference, at least with the wellness division and physique, like that jump between smaller, larger bodybuilding, basically.
Yeah.
Wellness is a kind of nice in between, but it is getting to the point where it's like, I don't know, like wellness, they're getting really lean, they're getting really vascular, they are putting on ungodly amount of size on their legs and their glutes, where it's losing that symmetry and proportion. Physique, honestly, women's physique is what I
But in
prefer
a way
watching
that's
more.
very timely.
Yeah, but some of them aren't. Like there's some competitors, man, that are really pushing the boundary of how much size they can put on.
Okay.
Not like, yeah, again, the top are the top, but like, there's ones coming up that they're really pushing it. But like, it seems to me that women's physique, at least, that's as always kind of held its, or figure and physique has really held its ground over the years. Because for women, it is harder to gain more size, to get leaner. So when you are in that division, the target. And that's why I do appreciate those. And I wish they got more notoriety in the sport. But again, because femininity, like, oh, we need more feminine women. That's why we have bikini and wellness. Like, it doesn't get as popular.
That's
but
why we bling them up.
Right. Nonetheless, they are, in my opinion, the most real when it comes to actually understanding this is the point of a physique competition. This is the point of a figure competition. Do your thing. That's it.
Yeah. The only thing missing is if you could do anything to improve the world, what would that be?
Right? Yeah, that's missing from every division now.
Every division could use that. I mean, it is what it is.
It's a pageant.
Yeah.
I'm willing to admit that. I was doing a glorified beauty pageant for a couple of years. I'm going to piss some people off with that.
And that speaks to one thing though too. Chris is a movie star. He has the looks of a movie star.
Yes.
That plays into his favor as well, let alone how good his physique looks and everything else. But he looks like a movie star, and he's going to win the prizes.
Yeah. Not to mention, again, we were talking about why Jennifer Aniston was on the cover. He can sell because he has a great personality. He's a humble guy. He's very personable. Everybody likes him, and he looks good. Like, even if he wasn't that size, you looked at him when he was 19, still a big dude because he just had great genetics, but nowhere near the size he is now. Like, he just looked like a movie star. And that's, that's how it is. Why was one of the highest paid and best boxers in the world Anthony Joshua for so long? Heavyweight boxer, great skill, very humble, very personable, but looked like a bodybuilder, right? Looked like the movie star in the face, had the skill of a great boxer. And that's why
draws a crowd.
That's it. Yeah. When you look at like top mass monster Mr. Olympia, they draw a crowd because they're crazy. Nobody really necessarily cares. Kai Green was honestly one of my favorite bodybuilders because he was so personal. Awesome.
His presentation was so amazing.
Just great, right? But I would prefer to watch Classic Physique because I enjoy Chris as a person more than I do about Big Ramy. Because in my opinion, he isn't necessarily the best ambassador of the sport. And I am not the first to say this. He just hasn't done a lot, in my opinion, compared to the Phil Heath, the Kai Green, the some other Jay Cutler, whatever. It's not the same. There's some other guys that are coming up as of late, like Nick Walker, great ambassador for the sport. There's some really, really good names, William Bonac. Whereas with Chris, he is the ambassador for the sport. Classic physique guys, like Terrence, great ambassador for the sport. Brion, I never really followed him much, so I couldn't say much, but it seemed like he was pretty good ambassadors for it at the time. And it's the same, the bikini, all the bikini girls that are top, and all the physique women and all the figure models, they are all great ambassadors, and they have a look that can also sell. But at what point does it get too much for that division where it doesn't sell anymore? Or, hey, maybe we'll just keep it going because this guy's so popular. This is the new definition of what classic physique is, because it is selling so well. And I think that's where we're at.
Good point.
And that's all.
That's all.
Yeah. Watch the Mr. Olympia, though. It's 4 weeks away. It's going to be awesome. There's some
definitely, it's going to be great.
We're going to do some more coverage as it comes out, because there's some really, really good lineups this year in each and every division. So I'm very excited for it. So pay attention for that, guys. And as always, ask us any questions, any topics you want us to cover. You know where to find us right below. And as always, stay safe.
Stay breezy.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.